March 17, 1943. North Atlantic, 520 nautical miles southwest of Iceland. Captain Lieutenant Hans-Werner Kraus stood in the cramped conning tower of U-604, watching through the periscope as another Allied merchantman settled into the dark water, stern rising as the bow disappeared beneath the waves. His third kill in 4 days, his 21st of the war. At 29 years old, Kraus was an ace, holder of the Knight's Cross, veteran of 32 combat patrols. He had sunk over 95,000 tons of Allied shipping, making him one of Germany's most successful U-boat commanders. "Secure from action stations," he ordered quietly. "Dive to 80 meters, course 270. Slow ahead." U-604 slipped beneath the surface, leaving behind a sea littered with wreckage and lifeboats. Somewhere above, the convoy's escorts would be searching for them, but Kraus had learned from experience that depth and distance provided safety. Wait an hour at depth, then surface after dark to recharge batteries and continue hunting. This was March 1943, the peak of Germany's U-boat campaign, the moment of greatest success in the Battle of the Atlantic. U-boat wolf packs were sinking Allied ships faster than ever before, 67 ships in the first 20 days of March alone, over 365,000 tons sent to the bottom. Admiral Karl Donitz, commander of the U-boat force, believed they were winning the tonnage war. Sink ships faster than the Allies could build them, and eventually the Atlantic supply line would collapse. Britain would starve. America's material superiority would mean nothing if it couldn't cross the ocean. What Kraus and Donitz didn't know was that March 1943 represented the high water mark of U-boat success. Not the beginning of victory, but the last gasp before catastrophic defeat. While German submarines were sinking record tonnages, American shipyards were producing vessels at rates that made U-boat successes strategically meaningless. The mathematics of the tonnage war, the cold arithmetic of ships sunk versus ships built, were turning decisively against Germany. The U-boats were losing a battle they thought they were winning. The battle had begun well for Germany. In 1940 and 1941, U-boats sank shipping faster than Britain could replace it. The happy time, U-boat commanders called it, when Allied defenses were weak and targets were plentiful. Kraus had joined the U-boat service in 1940, trained for 6 months, and taken command of U-604 in April 1941. His first patrol, retry, continue, had been a revelation. 4 ships sunk in 12 days, including a 10,000-ton tanker that burned for hours before sinking. Each success earned decorations, praise from Donitz, and certainty that Germany was strangling Britain's supply lines. By 1942, the campaign had intensified. Germany deployed more U-boats as production increased. Wolf pack tactics, coordinating multiple submarines against convoys, produced spectacular results. Kraus participated in several wolf pack operations, watching as 8 or 10 U-boats converged on a convoy, overwhelming the escorts, sinking ship after ship in nighttime surface attacks. The statistics seemed to confirm German success. In 1942, U-boats sank 1,322 Allied ships totaling 6.3 million tons. This was the highest annual total of the war, a devastating hemorrhage of shipping that appeared unsustainable for the Allies. Kraus personally sank 14 ships in 1942, his most successful year. But intelligence reports reaching U-boat headquarters in early 1943 contained disturbing information about American shipbuilding that Donitz initially dismissed as Allied propaganda. The reports claimed that American shipyards were building merchant ships in weeks rather than months, using revolutionary construction methods that defied everything German naval architects knew about shipbuilding. The ships were called Liberty ships, standardized 10,000-ton cargo vessels designed by American naval architect William Francis Gibbs and built by industrialist Henry Kaiser using assembly line techniques borrowed from automobile manufacturing. The reports claimed these ships could be built in 42 days on average, with some constructed in as little as 2 weeks from keel laying to launch. "Impossible," said Corvettenkapitän Werner Hartenstein, one of Kraus's fellow commanders. when they discussed the intelligence at a commander's conference in Lorient, France in February 1943. Ship construction takes 6 months minimum. These Americans think we're idiots to believe such propaganda. Kraus had been less certain. The intelligence comes from multiple sources: prisoner interrogations, captured documents, neutral observers. What if it's true? What if they can build ships that fast? Then we sink them that fast, Hartenstein responded. We have over 400 U-boats operational or in training. We sink 200 ships per month. If they can build ships quickly, we simply sink them quickly. The conversation had ended there, but Kraus couldn't shake the uncomfortable mathematics. If the Americans could actually build ships in 42 days, and they had multiple shipyards operating simultaneously, then they could potentially build ships faster than U-boats could sink them. The entire strategic premise of the U-boat campaign, sink tonnage faster than it can be replaced, would collapse. He mentioned this concern to his first officer, Oberleutnant Zur C. Klaus Weber, during their March patrol. Sir, even if the Americans can build ships quickly, we're sinking them faster than ever. March alone will exceed 600,000 tons. That's unsustainable for any merchant fleet. Perhaps, Kraus replied. But consider the mathematics. We have perhaps 240 U-boats operational at any time. Each sinks on average 2 ships per patrol, about 6 ships per year if we're lucky. That's 1,500 ships sunk annually at maximum effectiveness. If the Americans have even 10 shipyards, each building 1 ship per month, that's 120 ships per year from just 10 yards. The numbers might not favor us. Sir, respectfully, we're winning. We're sinking record tonnages. The Allies are desperate. Kraus let it drop, but the arithmetic continued troubling him. He was a U-boat commander, not an accountant, but like Friedrich Weinrich tracking fuel supplies, he understood that wars were ultimately decided by mathematics, not courage. What Kraus didn't know was that his pessimistic calculations were far too optimistic. American shipbuilding capacity wasn't 10 yards building 1 ship per month. It was 18 major shipyards building Liberty ships, plus dozens of other yards building tankers, military vessels, and specialized cargo ships. At peak production, the United States would complete 3 Liberty ships per day, every day for months on end. The Liberty ship program had emerged from American desperation in 1940 to 1941. Britain was losing shipping faster than British yards could replace it. America needed to supply Britain with food, fuel, and weapons, but German U-boats were sinking ships faster than existing construction could compensate. Traditional shipbuilding methods, building each ship individually from keel up with thousands of custom-fitted parts, was too slow. Henry Kaiser, a California industrialist who had never built a ship before 1941, proposed revolutionary methods borrowed from his experience constructing dams, bridges, and other massive projects. Instead of building ships sequentially, he would use assembly line techniques, prefabrication, and standardization to mass-produce vessels. Traditional shipbuilders scoffed. Ships weren't automobiles that could be stamped out on assembly lines. Each vessel required custom fitting, skilled craftsmen, months of careful construction. Kaiser's methods would produce inferior ships that would break apart in heavy seas. Kaiser ignored the criticism and began building shipyards specifically designed for mass production. At Richmond, California, he constructed 7 massive shipyards simultaneously, each capable of building multiple ships concurrently. Instead of traditional graving docks, he used flat assembly areas where ships were built on slipways. The key innovation was prefabrication. Rather than building ships sequentially from keel to superstructure, Kaiser's yards fabricated entire sections simultaneously in different areas of the shipyard. Bow sections, stern sections, deck sections, engine rooms, all built in parallel as modular assemblies weighing up to 30 tons each. When sections were complete, massive cranes lifted them into position on the ship's hull. What would traditionally require months of on-site construction happened in days of assembly. The process more closely resembled constructing a building from pre-made components than traditional ship construction. Most controversially, Kaiser's ships used welding throughout rather than traditional riveting. Welded seams were faster to construct and created stronger joints, but required different skills. American shipyards hired hundreds of thousands of workers, many of them women with no previous shipbuilding experience, and trained them in specialized welding techniques in weeks. The first Liberty ship, SS Patrick Henry, was launched on September 27, 1941, completing construction in 244 days. Too slow to achieve the production rates needed. Kaiser's teams refined their methods, streamlined processes, improved prefabrication. By early 1942, construction time had dropped to 60 days average. By late 1942, to 42 days. Some ships were built even faster. On November 12, 1942, Kaiser's Richmond Yard No. 2 laid the keel of SS Robert E. Peary at 12:01 a.m. and launched the completed ship at 3:30 p.m. on November 15. 4 days, 15 hours, 29 minutes from keel laying to launch. The ship required fitting out work after launch, but the hull was complete, seaworthy, and ready for final assembly in a record time that shocked even Kaiser's team. This wasn't sustainable pace. The Robert E. Peary was a publicity stunt, a demonstration of capability. But the demonstration proved that with extensive prefabrication, a Liberty ship could be assembled in days rather than months. Regular production settled at 40 to 45 days per vessel, achieved consistently across multiple yards. By March 1943, as Kraus was sinking his 21st ship and believing U-boats were winning, American shipyards had already delivered over 900 Liberty ships, with production accelerating. In March alone, American yards would complete 140 merchant ships of all types totaling 1.1 million tons. The U-boats sinking 600,000 tons seemed impressive until compared to 1.1 million tons built. The mathematics were devastating for Germany. U-boat sinkings, 600,000 tons. American production, 1.1 million tons. Net Allied shipping increase, 500,000 tons. The Allies were winning the tonnage war despite record U-boat success. Germany was sinking more ships than ever before and losing ground in the strategic calculation. But this reality wasn't yet clear in March 1943. Dönitz and his commanders saw record sinking totals and believed they were approaching the critical point where Allied shipping capacity would collapse. They ordered maximum effort, throwing every available U-boat into the Atlantic battle. The offensive peaked in March with 98 U-boats operating simultaneously against Allied convoys. Convoy SC-122 and HX-229, sailing from New York toward Britain, were intercepted by wolf packs totaling 44 U-boats. The battle lasted 5 days, resulting in 21 Allied ships sunk, 141,000 tons, for the loss of 1 U-boat. By tactical standards, this was overwhelming German victory. A 21-to-1 kill ratio seemed to prove that wolf pack tactics worked, that Allied defenses couldn't stop determined U-boat attacks, that the tonnage war was being won. Kraus participated in this battle, sinking 2 ships from HX-229 before being depth-charged by escorts and forced to break off. He returned to Lorient on March 28, 1943, expecting to be celebrated for another successful patrol. Instead, he found U-boat headquarters in turmoil. Intelligence had finally obtained confirmation of American shipbuilding capacity, and the numbers were catastrophic for German strategy. A captured American document, taken from a merchant ship sunk in February, contained production statistics from the War Shipping Administration. The document, stamped confidential, listed monthly Liberty ship deliveries. * January 1943, 102 Liberty ships delivered. * February 1943, 118 Liberty ships delivered. * March 1943, projected 140 Liberty ships delivered. Each Liberty ship averaged 10,800 deadweight tons. March production alone, 1.51 million tons. Total U-boat sinkings in March, 627,000 tons. Net Allied advantage, 883,000 tons. The Allies were building ships twice as fast as U-boats could sink them. But the document revealed something even more disturbing. The 18 Liberty shipyards were projected to reach peak production of 3 ships per day, roughly 1,000 ships per year, 10 million tons annually, by late 1943. And Liberty ships were only part of American production. The U.S. was also building tankers, Victory ships, faster than Liberty ships, military vessels, and dozens of other types. Total American merchant ship production projection for 1943, 19 million tons. Total Allied production, including British yards, 21 million tons. To defeat this, U-boats would need to sink 1.75 million tons per month, every month, to simply keep pace with Allied construction. March 1943 sinkings, 627,000 tons, represented barely one-third the tonnage needed to match Allied production. And March was the most successful month of the entire U-boat campaign. Even at peak effectiveness, U-boats weren't sinking ships fast enough. Kraus read the intelligence summary in stunned silence. Every successful patrol, every ship sunk, every tonnage total celebrated as progress toward victory, all strategically meaningless. The Americans were building ships faster than Germany could possibly sink them, and the gap was widening. "The mathematics are impossible," he said to Weber that evening. "We would need to triple our effectiveness to match their production. We can't triple effectiveness. We're already at maximum operational tempo." "Perhaps the intelligence is wrong," Weber suggested hopefully. "Perhaps American claims are exaggerated. Multiple independent sources confirm it. Prisoner interrogations capture documents, neutral observers in American ports. They're building 3 ships per day. We can't sink 3 ships per day per U-boat. The arithmetic doesn't work." The conversation was interrupted by an emergency commanders' conference called by Admiral Donitz. Every available U-boat commander in Lorient was summoned to headquarters on March 30th. Donitz, looking exhausted and angry, addressed them without preamble. "Gentlemen, we face a crisis. Intelligence indicates American ship production exceeds our previous estimates by significant margins. The tonnage war is not proceeding as planned." He displayed charts showing Allied production versus U-boat sinkings. The gap was undeniable. In visual form, the strategic reality was even more devastating than statistics alone. "We achieved record sinkings in March," Donitz continued, "but the Allies built more than we sank. This trend cannot continue. Either we increase effectiveness dramatically, or we lose the Atlantic campaign." "Sir," Hartenstein interjected, "how can we increase effectiveness? We're already operating at maximum tempo. We're using wolf-pack tactics, advanced torpedoes, every innovation available. What more can we do?" Donitz had no answer. The U-boat force was already doing everything possible. More U-boats were being built. Production would reach 40 per month by late 1943. But this barely replaced losses, which were increasing as Allied anti-submarine warfare improved. More torpedoes were being fired, but torpedoes were slow to manufacture, required skilled workers, and U-boats could carry only limited numbers. More aggressive tactics were being employed, but these increased U-boat losses to escorts and aircraft. "We will continue maximum effort," Donitz finally said. "Intelligence may be incomplete. American production may not be sustainable. We will maintain pressure and observe results." The conference ended with no solution, no revised strategy, no acknowledgement that the mathematics might be insurmountable. German naval doctrine had always emphasized willpower and tactical excellence. The idea that industrial capacity could overcome tactical superiority was unacceptable. But April 1943 brought the crisis home with undeniable force. U-boat losses surged to 15 boats that month as Allied anti-submarine warfare improved. Sinkings dropped to 328,000 tons, barely half of March's total. Meanwhile, American shipyards delivered 157 Liberty ships in April, plus dozens of other vessels. Allied shipping increased by 1.2 million tons despite U-boat attacks. May was catastrophic. Improved Allied radar, better tactics, more escort vessels, and increased air patrols devastated U-boat operations. 41 U-boats were lost in May, the worst monthly total of the war. Sinkings dropped to 264,000 tons. American production, 168 Liberty ships, plus other vessels totaling 1.6 million tons. The mathematics had become undeniable. Germany was losing 41 U-boats per month while sinking only 264,000 tons, 6,400 tons per U-boat lost. The Americans were building 1.6 million tons. U-boats would need to achieve 38,000 tons per boat lost just to match Allied production. Current effectiveness, 1/6 the rate needed. On May 24, 1943, Dönitz made the decision he had been avoiding: withdrawal from the North Atlantic. The U-boat campaign would continue, but the attempt to strangle Allied supply lines was over. The mathematics had won. Kraus received the withdrawal order during his next patrol in June. Return to base. Suspend Atlantic convoy operations until further notice. He read the message 3 times before accepting its implications. "We've lost," he said to Weber. "Not this battle. The entire campaign. If we're withdrawing, it means they've beaten us. Sir, it might be temporary. New weapons, better torpedoes. Won't matter. The problem isn't weapons. It's mathematics. They build ships faster than we can sink them. No tactical innovation changes that reality." U-604 returned to Lorient on June 18, 1943. Kraus would make only 2 more patrols before his boat was sunk in July 1943 with all hands. He survived by being transferred to training duties 2 weeks before the final mission, a bureaucratic decision that saved his life by chance. The U-boat campaign continued at reduced intensity for the rest of the war, but the strategic initiative was gone. By late 1943, Allied shipping was increasing despite U-boat attacks. American Liberty ship production peaked at 3 per day, exactly as projected. Total 1943 production, 19.3 million tons, exceeding even the ambitious projections that had seemed like propaganda in March. The final statistics told the story of industrial capacity overwhelming tactical excellence. 1942, peak U-boat success. Asterisk U-boats sank. 1,322 ships, 6.3 million tons. Asterisk Allies built, 7.2 million tons. Asterisk net Allied gain, 900,000 tons. 1943, after March. Asterisk U-boats sank. 812 ships, 3.2 million tons. Asterisk Allies built, 21 million tons. Asterisk net Allied gain, 17.8 million tons. 1944. Asterisk U-boats sank. 568 ships, 2.4 million tons. Asterisk Allies built, 16.5 million tons. Asterisk net Allied gain, 14.1 million tons. By 1945, the U-boat force was effectively impotent. Allied shipping exceeded 1939 levels despite 4 years of submarine warfare. The Americans alone had built over 2,700 Liberty ships during the war, enough tonnage to replace every ship sunk by U-boats twice over. The Liberty ship program cost approximately $2 billion total. Each ship cost roughly $2 million to build. A U-boat cost approximately $3 million to build, required a year to construct, and sank an average of 4 to 5 ships during its operational life. The economic exchange ratio favored the Allies overwhelming. Spend $2 million to build a ship that might be sunk by a $3 million submarine that would be destroyed by a $50,000 depth charge. More devastating was the crew exchange ratio. Each Liberty ship required 44 crew members, many of them minimally trained merchant mariners. Each U-boat required 48 to 56 highly trained crew members who had undergone 18 months of specialized training. Germany lost 28,000 U-boat crew members killed during the war, more than 70% of all men who served in U-boats. These irreplaceable specialists died at horrific rates to sink ships that were replaced within weeks of their loss. After the war, Kraus, one of the few U-boat aces to survive, was interviewed by American naval historians studying the Atlantic campaign. His assessment, recorded in 1947, captured the perspective of someone who had fought brilliantly and lost anyway. "We were very good at sinking ships. Our tactics were sound, our commanders experienced, our crews brave. In March 1943, we achieved the highest sinking totals of the war. We thought we were winning. We didn't understand that we were fighting a campaign we had already lost. The Americans were building ships faster than we could possibly sink them. Not slightly faster, overwhelmingly faster. We would have needed to triple our effectiveness, sustain that for years, and somehow avoid our own losses increasing. It was mathematically impossible. The Liberty ship defeated us more thoroughly than any Allied destroyer or aircraft. It represented industrial capacity we couldn't match. Each ship we sank was replaced by 2 or 3 new ones within a month. Our U-boats took a year to build and were sunk after months of operations. The exchange rate was unsustainable. Most painful was that we didn't know. In March 1943, we celebrated record sinkings without understanding they were strategically meaningless. We thought tactical success equaled strategic victory. We were wrong. The Americans won not through better tactics or braver sailors, but through factories that produced ships faster than we could destroy them. By the time we understood this, it was too late. The Tonnage War was lost. The Atlantic was lost. Our U-boats became targets rather than hunters. All our skill, all our courage, all our tactical excellence meant nothing against industrial capacity that overwhelmed everything we could do. I survived. Most of my comrades didn't. They died bravely, achieving tactical success that added up to strategic defeat. The Liberty ships kept coming. More than we sank, more than we could sink, more than we ever imagined could be built. That's how industrial wars are lost. Not through defeat in battle, but through defeat in factories. We couldn't build ships as fast as they sank ours. That was irrelevant because we couldn't sink theirs as fast as they built them. The mathematics were impossible from the beginning. We just didn't know it until too late. Admiral Donitz, tried at Nuremberg for war crimes, was questioned about the U-boat campaign's failure. His assessment, from a commander's perspective rather than a tactical operator's, reached the same conclusion. We calculated that sinking 700,000 tons per month would exceed Allied shipbuilding capacity based on pre-war construction rates. We achieved this in multiple months. But our intelligence failed to appreciate American industrial mobilization. They didn't just build ships, they revolutionized ship construction. The Liberty ship wasn't a better design than previous cargo ships. It was a design optimized for mass production. Standardized, prefabricated, assembled rather than built. They applied automotive manufacturing methods to shipbuilding and achieved production rates we thought impossible. By the time we understood their production capacity, we had already lost the strategic initiative. We couldn't increase sinkings fast enough to match their construction. Our own losses were increasing as Allied anti-submarine warfare improved. The mathematics turned decisively against us in 1943. The Tonnage War was lost not because U-boats were ineffective, but because American shipyards were more effective. Tactical excellence cannot overcome industrial superiority at such overwhelming scale. The Liberty ship represented an industrial philosophy we couldn't match. Adequate design, mass-produced, quickly built, easily replaced. We built excellent U-boats requiring skilled construction over many months. They built adequate cargo ships requiring semi-skilled construction over 6 weeks. In a war of attrition, adequate and numerous defeats excellent and scarce. The mathematics guarantee it. The Liberty ship program, dismissed as propaganda by German commanders in early 1943, proved to be one of the decisive factors in Allied victory. The ships weren't remarkable individually. Slow, uncomfortable, prone to cracking in cold water. but they were built fast enough and in sufficient quantity to make U-boat success strategically irrelevant. By war's end, the United States had built 2,710 Liberty ships plus thousands of other merchant vessels. Total American merchant ship production, 55.2 million deadweight tons. The U-boats had sunk 14.5 million tons of Allied shipping, terrible in human cost, irrelevant strategically. Allied shipping capacity in 1945 exceeded 1939 capacity by 40 million tons despite 4 years of submarine warfare. The battle Kraus thought he was winning in March 1943 was already lost. The mathematics had decided it before he fired his first torpedo. American shipyards building 3 ships per day had defeated German submarines sinking 2 ships per week. The exchange rate was impossible to overcome. In museums today, preserved Liberty ships sit beside captured U-boats, physical representations of the strategic contrast. The U-boat, sophisticated, deadly, built by craftsmen using advanced technology. The Liberty ship, crude, simple, built by semi-skilled workers using assembly line methods. In 1943, the U-boat was the superior weapon for sinking ships. The Liberty ship was the superior weapon for winning wars. One was optimized for individual effectiveness. The other was optimized for mass production. In a war of industrial attrition, mass production won. The U-boat commanders who fought in 1942 to 1943 were among the most skilled naval warriors of World War II. They achieved remarkable tactical success, sinking thousands of ships, terrorizing Allied convoys, disrupting supply lines. Their courage and skill are undeniable. But they were fighting against arithmetic, against shipyards building faster than submarines could sink, against industrial capacity that replaced losses faster than tactical excellence could inflict them, against the mathematical certainty that when one side builds 2 ships for every 1 ship sunk, the side sinking ships will eventually lose regardless of tactical superiority. Kraus understood this by June 1943. Dönitz understood it by May 1943. The U-boat force understood it as their losses mounted and their victories became meaningless. They had fought brilliantly and lost anyway because they were solving the wrong problem. They tried to sink ships faster than Allied shipyards could build them. The correct strategy was to never fight an enemy who could build ships faster than you could sink them. But by the time Germany understood this, war had already begun, and the mathematics of defeat were already written in the production schedules of American shipyards. The Liberty ship didn't win through excellence. It won through adequacy mass-produced. 3 ships per day every day for years. Against such production, even the most successful U-boat campaign in history was strategically insufficient. The arithmetic guaranteed it.